So it's going to be a wonderfully deep weekend. And we're going to have David Hoffmeister with us tomorrow. Today we have Francis Sue with us here in Mexico. And before Francis starts, we're going to have a song with Eric and Susan. I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Peter. I'm going to be the host this weekend. So I'm going to pass it over to Eric and Susan right now. It's over to you guys.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. I'm feeling a little emotional. Not sure why I just had a lot of emotions coming up about I don't know. I'm not sure. I think my prayer just for today and for this session was really just to have an experience of that love. And I had the word simplicity in my mind, and it feels like it's something about simplicity, like stay with me, stay in the simplicity. And I feel like that the whole theme of this retreat is about staying in the simplicity. So I don't know what's going on. And so the song that Eric and I are going to sing is called Shine Through. And to me, it's about that simplicity. So I don't know if I can try and sing now.
I can feel your love shine, shine, shine. You gently whisper to me, everything is fine. Now all I wanna do is listen to you tell me everything I've got to do to open up and let your love shine through. I can see your face smile, smile, smile. The time I spend with you is so worthwhile. Now all I wanna do is look at you and let your smiling face teach me how to open up and let your love shine through. 'Cause I'm beginning to remember all the love that I once knew. All my fear is disappearing as I disappear in you. I can feel your love shine, shine, shine. I hear your laughter and it heals my mind. Now all I wanna do is listen to your gentle laughter teaching me how to open up and let your love shine through. There's nothing more that I want to do than listen to your music teach me how to open up and let your love shine through. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Eric. It's really beautiful. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this weekend. Yeah, I feel actually just after Susan's sharing and the song, maybe just say a prayer first. Thank you, Jesus, for calling us, and we're so grateful that we heard your call. What an honor to be your devoted students. To learn from you what God is and what we are. Amen. So welcome to join us. My name is Francis. I'm truly honored, actually, to be part of this retreat and to open the retreat and to welcome you all to join us in this amazing collaboration for the big awakening. And a lot of you who join us this weekend have been with us consistently every single month, because we're doing this online retreat every single month, the first weekend of each month. But we also have friends who join us for the very first time this weekend from Canada, from Colombia, from Hungary, and the Netherlands. So I just also want to welcome you for joining us for the very first time. Thank you so much. Yeah. So today, this morning, I just gonna open this session and just talk a little bit about the topic devotion and what it really means, so that we can just really give ourselves permission to tap into a very deep time together this weekend. And we have a lot of different sessions that's gonna come that will present the topic in different ways. This evening, we have a panel discussion offered by people who have been living in
in our community, and they're going to share a lot of examples, a lot of insights that they have received during this time that they live in the community. And then tomorrow we have David Hoffmeister, who will be spending a whole day with us, watching a movie with a very deep commentary. And then we're also going to break everybody into small expression groups so that everyone will have time to share what comes up for them in the movie. And then they will the whole day will end with individual Q&A opportunities with David. And Sunday, David and I will come back and address any questions that you would have that have, if they haven't really been addressed in the other sessions. We'll attempt to answer them for you, and then we'll close the whole weekend. So yeah, it will be a very deep time for each and every one of us. I think we're all gathering here for this particular time because we all heard the call. And the call comes through in different ways, but there is no doubt that we have all heard the call. So for myself, it was a very profound calling. I just remember that in the early part of my life, I actually was in a pretty dark place throughout the first 20 years of my life. A lot of physical pain, a lot of emotional pains, a lot of tears, a lot of frustration with every single aspect of my life, everything. Sickness, the sickness of my loved ones, the fear of death, fear of their death, and the frustration of competition, fear of loss, abandonment, betrayal, unworthiness, you name it, everything. And I was looking around my life, and I watched all my teenage friends seem to really enjoy life, and they fall in love, they start to have relationships, they were having a great time. And I was thinking, why was I the only one that was experiencing this pain, so much pain? And then at some point, a friend of mine, just in the passing, we were talking about something totally irrelevant, and she just mentioned in the passing, she said, life is suffering. That's the bottom line. That's what this life is about, just to suffer. And when she said that, I have to say, I leaped inside the feeling someone understood what I was feeling. I was not alone in this. This is what this life was to me, suffering and nothing else. And that's all there was. So fast forward, when I first met David in Sydney, Australia, he was doing a gathering. I was sitting at the back row there listening, thinking I already picked up the course a year before that. What does this guy have to offer, really? And he radiated this happiness. I think that's the moment I realized everything I knew about this world started to crumble in a good way. But it wasn't really so much what he said. It was that one person actually demonstrated that this life is not all suffering and happiness is possible. And I guess for me, I just never really associated happiness to when I had a birthday party or when I was admitted to the school I wanted, when I get the best job I was applying for, or even when I got married. None of it in my life somehow symbolized happiness to me. But when David showed up, someone who carried this happiness, I recognized that straight away. And I said, that is not of this world. That is not of this world. That's the first time I had a glimpse of something that's not of this world. Happiness, when we're talking about happiness, this word we're associating with is not of this world. And I recognized it. And what I'm saying is, today I realized how significant when someone actually live the happiness, carry that state of mind with them, they become the happiness. And when they just stand in front of you, you have a glimpse of something that is not in this world. And that is enough for me. That's really, that's all that is enough for me. Because as I learned and then confirmed that the world was all about suffering, that was the moment for me to see maybe I was wrong. And then what happened afterwards was that I went to a retreat, and in that retreat, I actually had a glimpse of myself for the first time. That's happiness that's not of this world. I had a first glimpse, and that's all it took. Witness something first, had an experience, even though that experience was not integrated. It was far from being integrated. It was only a glimpse. And yet that was enough for me to say, I'm turning away from everything, turning away from absolutely everything. I'm not turning away from a husband, a life, or expectations from my mother. I'm not. I'm turning away from a world that taught me that love has pain, that love has loss associated with it, that health has sickness and death associated with it as the opposite side, that happiness has a flip side of guilt and anger. I'm turning away. You know, that was truly the moment, and I was very aware of it, what I was turning away from. Yes, there was a lot of guilt at the time that was reflected back to me, like how selfish are you to, but I was thinking what I'm going to is so big. This is so big. I'm looking at the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm thinking, I can never really live the same way without finding out whether that is true. How can I? How can I sit here, live the same way? And there is a light in the remote, like a calling. And I would be sitting here thinking, I need to find out. I need to find out. That's really what it was for me. That was what it was. A happiness that has no opposite. And when I saw David, and still today, when I saw the consistency of the happiness, I know there is a consistent devotion to the spirit. Otherwise, happiness would be impossible. If there is no consistent devotion in the mind to turn away from the ego, that kind of consistent happiness would be impossible. And that is truly what I'm going for. Seemingly, moving countries, going to live in a place to just learn that. So happiness is not a small gift. Why is that? Because happiness requires that we turn away from the ego. Jesus says to have peace, you have to relinquish the teacher of attack. That makes perfect sense. To have peace, I have to turn away from the teacher of attack. And this is a turning away from the ego, turn away from the teacher of attack, the teacher of separation. To go for that dedication for the teacher of peace. When I came to the community, at the time we had, the community has gone through different phases in the past decade. And when I first got here, we had like a role and more defined role and titles. And one of the title at the time was called Messenger of Peace. And I was about to enter or to be to reach that phase where I would become a messenger of peace. Right now, the title are completely dissolved, but it was around 10 years ago. And it was after my first trip with David back to China to share a retreat. And we finished the retreat. He went back to the States. I was there for a couple of more weeks to visit my mom. And I was waiting one morning, I was waiting for his call because he was going to talk to the group, the Messengers of Peace group, about whether I would be ready to enter that title. So I was just waiting. The call could come anytime. And I was reading the lesson, the workbook lesson of the day. So I read this sentence. Would you receive God's message? ? I said, yeah, I would. And then the next sentence, for that, you would be a messenger for God. I thought, oh, that is the definition of messenger of peace, messenger of God. Would you receive God's message? So I said, yes, I would. I would receive God's message. And then the next sentence, you are appointed now. And I was like, I was appointed by Jesus. Hooray, what? Just that? I'm qualified? Would you receive God's message? Thus you become God's messenger. You are appointed now. And then the call came, yes, that is a symbol. Jesus appointed at the level of mind. The symbol shows up. Yes, you are welcome to be a messenger of peace. But I never forgot who was behind that symbol. How can I forget? That was Jesus. And that is he who asked us, every one of us, would you receive God's message? Meaning, not in just in the sentence, in the little thoughts that we would receive, but would you carry God's message? Just like David carried the happiness, showed up in my life, my whole world changed just by a glimpse of that which is opposite to everything I have believed. This is what we're called to do. Would you receive God's message? Would you carry God's message? Would you be his messenger? And you are appointed now. I love it. I had a very similar experience recently. I was talking to Susanna, my friend Susanna from QDS. She said, I don't know whether you noticed, but ever since that movie gathering Fatima a few weeks ago, David has been talking this word, vocation, in every one of his talks. And I never heard him talk about that word. She said it was so beautiful. So we hung up and I was thinking, I don't even know what that word means, vocation. I mean, is that a path, spiritual, religious path? So I thought I'll Google it. I just went to Google, I typed what does vocation mean, but then before I even clicked enter, my eyes landed on the course that is open right in front of me, and it said, Holy Spirit is a spirit of joy. He is the call to return. He's a call to return that God has placed in the mind of his separated son. That is the vocation of the mind. And I was like, no need for Google then. I have a question of a worldly definition. The spirit this is the vocation of the mind, very clear definition. Holy Spirit is a call to return. Return. That's the vocation. That's the vocation of the mind. So truly the Spirit is, Jesus is the one that called us all. And the symbols shows up as he directed it. And I'm so incredibly grateful for the symbols, because they just represent the parts of my mind that are so willing to turn away from the teacher of attack in every single moment, and to go for happiness without reservation. Then, what I was thinking about this topic, devotion, when we think about devotion, of course, we think about how devotion looks like. Devotion looked like going to the convent in the 1800s or the 1900s. It looked like you become a monk, you become a none. But truly, devotion has no form. Devotion is an attitude, is a decision in the mind. And the only commonality of a devotional life or a life living in devotion, if you look at history from as early as Buddha or Jesus, saints, till now, the only commonality is not at the level of form, but it is at all in, totality. I'm giving my life completely to God. So do I have my own life that I would worry about what to eat, what to work, where the money comes from? No more. Do I live for myself? No, because the self that I believed in is the only reason that I need help. So I'm turning away from all the things that I taught myself, or I learned from the ego, everything, every single part of it. So everything is God's. All decisions are yours to make, including the decisions that involve this body, including what to do, what to say, where to live, and who to talk to. Absolutely everything. That is the only commonality throughout. If you look at the history and modern day when we talk about devotion. And truly, that is no exception today. And that is not sacrifice in any way. There is no sacrifice. Because when we think of not making decisions for ourselves, we think of, oh wow, then that means compromise and sacrifice everything I want. Because it's all about suffering and sacrifice. No, that is in the same realm of ego thinking, though. That is still learned from this world. So right now, when we talk about devotion, we are truly called to let go everything that we have taught ourselves, absolutely everything. And Jesus says, you cannot know anything unless you pass the test of perfect peace. Perfect peace, only in perfect peace would you understand anything, know anything. So even this pathway, why this symbol shows up and not that one? Why? Let's not focus on the whys, because when we do that, we're trying to confirm our experience with past learnings. That's all that we're trying to do. As if from past learnings, from this mind that we're used to, still some kind of confirmation and understanding can come of it to explain the present experience. Perfect peace, Jesus says, perfect peace is that you have no fear whatsoever of any kind, and anybody who meet you and even think of you would experience the same peace. Whoa, that is how I think of Jesus. That is where we're heading for. We are being called to leave this world, this land of duality, to leave this place of suffering, good and bad, all the ego concepts, and go straight back. And then he says, you don't need to ask how a goal this massive can be achieved. You don't need to ask how, because you cannot know how. And that makes perfect sense. How can I know how? If I know how, why is that necessary for Jesus to come in to help? I cannot know how. And he says, all that you're asked to do is to admit that nothing that you have learned in the past you want. You have to be willing to know nothing, to admit that you know nothing. And that's where he will enter. That's all that he is asking us to do. That's how we receive God's message. The only way we can receive God's message is not to assume we already know anything. So, for me, this pathway truly, the moment I said, I'm turning away from it, I'm turning away from it all, this place, the little bit of this and little bit of that, is not good enough. And I'm turning away from it all. Then a pathway was laid in front of me. A pathway that I would never have guessed how it would look. It is laid in front of me. And all that he asked me to do is just to go one step at a time when the next brick was laid right in front. That's all. You can't know a 5-year plan because you haven't passed the test of perfect peace, so you know nothing. So let's just keep going with this humility that I do not know. Therefore, I have a great need to ask, one step at a time. So this is what it looks like for me. It's absolutely glorious. It's such an amazingly happy pathway for me, and also for everybody around me. And so we live in a community where we're all called at different times, from different countries, from different careers, from different, stages of our life, where we all heard the call, and somehow the specific pathway was laid in front of us, and then we came together. So we don't know how that happened, but it happened. Because it didn't happen through anybody's individual pick and choose. Say, I wanted that. No, that's not gonna get us anywhere. So all that we have said is, okay, thy will be done. You will is my will. I have none of my own. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to live my next day. So it's all on you. It's all on you. And when we actually can truly rest in that, this pathway shows up. People show up. And we come together. even this community is so unbelievable to me, because I look at this community, sometimes I think I'm not living in this community. This community is living in my mind, because there is absolutely no way this community can expand and change exactly according to the need of my mind. Exactly. It's never get old. It's unlimited. It provides unlimited opportunity every single day and every single year, exactly where my mind is at. It is truly unbelievable. But that is how it happens, because the symbol is given by the Spirit. So the symbol serves the Spirit's purpose to help the mind to start to remember that truly everything you perceive is in your own mind. But that comes from this very, very gradual, at least in my case, very, very gradual remembrance. It very, very slowly, ever so slowly start to dawn on the mind. Slowly. And yet at the same time, my part is just so simple. It's just to be able to say, I don't know. I still don't. Spirit never says, well, your part is to learn as much of the spiritual awakening as you can from the past decade and teach the past experience. He never said that. If anything, he says, not a single thing that you have learned from the past will serve you. Forget it all. Everything, even the one thing that you learned yesterday that helped yesterday, is not what he wants to give you now. So be ready to receive God's message now. When you truly receive it for yourself, you inevitably become the carrier of his message. You inevitably start to fulfill the function that he gives you, which is a function in mind, which is forgiveness, which is happiness. Forgiveness is happiness. It's not one two-step thing. Forgive and then be happy. Forgiveness is happiness. When you carry the message of forgiveness, when you forgive, you are the messenger of happiness and of God right in that very moment. And that message shines through so brightly. Like Eric and Susan's song that opened this session, that light shines through without you having to speak a single word. That's truly what the Spirit is calling us to do. Not even to save the world, but to save our own mind. Because he wants us to be happy, because he wants us to remember we are still God's son. And that's what this whole thing is about. That's what this whole thing is about. There's no other thing that we're here to do. Nothing we're here to achieve. Absolutely nothing. No self-identity and concept is worthy in this world compared to the identity that the Spirit wants us to remember. But when I remember this, every single step I'm walking seemingly in this world, but Jesus is always behind it, and give me little cues so that I know he is here, behind absolutely every decision, behind every symbol that is in my life, to tell me, you can trust this symbol because he is devoted. Look at how happy he is, how consistently happy he is. That indicates consistent devotion to me. If you have any doubt, if you don't trust your own selfish intentions, Trust that. Trust that happiness. Trust that devotion to forgiveness. Trust that. That makes the whole pathway very simple, because I don't really have to sit here and analyze, is this a spirit, is this ego? If I have any doubt, I look to the ones that were sent to me by Jesus to trust. And this is really how underpinning of everything we do in this community is that trust, not in a person, but in that devotion, the same devotion that we recognize in each other, the same dedication to turn to the Spirit, to turn to forgiveness, to turn to happiness, that we all deeply, deeply desire. We trust each other because we know that is everybody's desire and everybody's only true desire. And truly, I would say it makes this this awakening journey for me looks very simple. Not much to do, not a lot of analysis that was required. If anything, the opposite, because I came from an analytical mind. So it was the opposite that was called for: rest. Keep resting. Rest again. If you have doubt, just join and share your thoughts, but pray together so that you can receive. It is very, very simple. And if you look at our lives, we don't just sit around and pray, hold hands and be silent. We actually have a lot of projects every single day. It looks like, oh wow, everybody is full on, almost 12 hours a day to have projects. And what is that for? In and of itself, for nothing of this world. Nobody truly cares about the project to be anything. And yet it's this same desire to be happy. I want to find happiness. And that's why I did not choose the symbols, not including who I'm going to collaborate with, including what projects will be given me. I shall make no decisions. So when every single thing are given to us, then we just rejoice and say yes, and then jump in. So really, underneath it all is a very consistent practice to choose, to turn away from attack, and allow the darkness to rise up, just so that we can see it fully, and turn away, not be tempted by it anymore, not to hide, not to project, but turn away. So this is underneath everything, and to say absolutely yes to everything that was given. That's what I have found, actually. Once we do not make decisions of our own, once we say we don't pick and choose the symbols of this world for our own, the symbols that come our way are they're so full. There are a lot of symbols. You don't have to ever worry about you will be left alone. You will be given a lot of practice. So actually, that's the only way that can make a group of us live together 24/7 for years and years, and to do all kinds of projects together. That's the only thing that can make this become truly meaningful and truly smooth, because the underlying goal was consistent. It doesn't really matter when conflicts rise up, it doesn't really matter when ego or emotions rise up. The underlying purpose is the same. Let's see it fully. Let's choose forgiveness together. That's the underlying purpose of absolutely everything. And Jesus does change the symbols a lot. That's what I learned. As I accept something so fully, maybe at the beginning, I'll be like, what? This is what you asked me to do? Why? I don't want to, or I don't see the purpose, to, okay, full yes, yes, yes. And then so much joy and lesson received, then the symbol is gone. Next one, because Jesus wants me to learn the content, not the form. He wants me to learn where this happiness and the forgiveness is truly coming from. It's not lying in any symbol and anybody and any relationship. Nobody can give it to me. It is in my own choice, in my own consistent decision and desire that I shall have it consistently. So he does have a way to teach that by shifting the symbols, shifting the form, so that we can get consistent content from within our mind. And it really works. Really works. So I think tonight, actually, we have 4 or 5 of us who are very eager to share with you in more detail about their lives, just using this community and the everyday task as their backdrop to achieve forgiveness, to achieve the true freedom in their mind. So I think that would be very, very relevant, and